with refuge in bodhicitta and follow the order in the prayer book. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp. An illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. From Tushita's hundreds of gods, protector's heart, to tip of this fresh, pure white heap, curd like cloud, O Losang Dragpa, Dharma's omniscient king, pray come to this place with your disciples. In space ahead, on land, throne, lotus and moon, venerable gurus smile brightly with delight. Pray stay hundreds of eons to spread doctrine as supreme merit field for my mind of faith. Your wisdom mind sees full range of knowables. Your eloquent speech adorns fortunate ears. Your beauteous body, very outstanding. Homage to you, worthwhile to think of, hear and see. Pleasant offerings of water, various flowers, fragrant incense, light perfume, and so on. Oceans of offerings set out and envisioned, offered up to you, supreme field of merit. None virtue committed with body, speech, and mind, which I have heaped up since beginningless time, especially what has contradicted three vows. Each I confess from my heart with strong regret. In time of strife you strove to learn and practice, shunned eight mundane concerns, made life essence-full. O protector from depths of our hearts, we rejoice in your powerful great deeds. Venerable gurus from love and wisdom, clouds densely massed in your Dharmakaya sky, pray loose a rain of vast profound Dharma on fields of disciples just as needed. May whatever virtue that I've here gathered bring benefit to all beings and doctrine, and may it make Venerable Losang Dragpa's essential teaching specially shine forever. Mig tse wei ter chen chen rezig, dri me kien pe wang po jam pel yang, du pung malu jom ze sang we dak, gang chen ke pe tsu gen song kapa, lo sang drag pe jabla so adeb. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus on my crown, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments of body, speech, and mind. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments common and supreme. Yes, and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness, until supreme awakening remain steadfast. Homage to the exalted three jewels. Thus have I heard at one time. The Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha on Vulture Mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that very time, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, was looking perfectly at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, perfectly looking at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, how should a child of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, replied to the Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this, subsequently looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. That is, they are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement and no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visible form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no object of touch, no mental phenomenon. There is no I element and so forth up to no mind element, up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no cessation of ignorance and so forth up to no aging and death and no cessation of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation and no path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom, and because their minds have no obstructions, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond error, they attain the final state beyond sorrow. All the Buddhas who reside in the three times by relying on the perfection of wisdom become manifest and complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it is not false, shall be known as the truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tayata, gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva, a great being, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, well said, O child of the lineage, so it is. The profound perfection of wisdom shall be practiced exactly as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, and the entire assembly, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas, and others, were filled with admiration and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. In the holy supreme abode of the Dakinis, possessed of clairvoyance and miraculous power, unwaveringly caring for practitioners as your children, homage to the hosts of the three places Dakinis, Akasamarata Shadara Samaryafi. Akasamarata Shadara Samaryafi. Tayata, Om, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisoha. Through the power of truth of the exalted three-jewel speech, may all on the side of negativity, such as the four maras, be stopped. May they become non-existent. May they be pacified. All enemies, obstructors, and hindrances, Shanti Kuriye Soha. The 80,000 types of obstructors pacified, freed from adverse harmful conditions, may all be conducive and perfect auspiciousness, bring happiness and well-being here, right now. Saji perki jukshing me to traham ri brahbling ji yi degyen pade sangye Kien se trindrigne jitar sampe dulce zinma lazab yecherki charpawab tu so idam guru ratna mandalakam niryatayami Sangye cherdang soki chok nam la jangcho bardu dagni kapsuchi dagi chernyen gi peso nam ki drola penchir sangye du parshu Sangye cherdang soki chok nam la jangcho bardu dagni kapsuchi dagi chernyen gi peso nam ki drola penchir sangye du parshu Sangye cherdang soki chognam la jangcho bardu dagni kapsuchi dagi chernyen gi pesonam ki drola penchir sangye drupasho.
Unaccustomed as I am. Okay, so let's start this part with a little meditation. So, sit comfortably in a good meditation posture. And bring your mind in away from objects of the 5 physical senses. And then trying to keep your mind away from objects of the 6th sense, the mental sense, mainly discursive, chattering, scattered mind, keeping your mind away from that. Find your breath where it enters and leaves your body, at the entrance of your nostrils. So you can just feel it going out and coming in there. So that's the focus of your concentration. So try to keep your mind there as long as you can without distraction. The moment you notice that your mind has gone off your breath, that you're distracted by something, just drop whatever it was that distracted you and come straight back to your breath. keep your mind on your breath. if your meditation has been effective, your mind should be a little calmer and clearer than before. So look into it and check your motivation for being here this morning. Ask yourself why you've come to the centre. So if you find that the reason for your being here is just a worldly one, just concern for the happiness, benefit of this life alone, then recognize that's a negative motivation coming from attachment, which is rooted in ignorance. Ignorance of the nature of reality. So since negative motivation leaves negative imprints on our consciousness, which ripen, imprints that ripen into suffering at some point in the future, discard that motivation, replace it with a positive one. So you can briefly think like this: the purpose of my life. The purpose of my life, the purpose of my having been born human this time. Is to lead all sentient beings from suffering to enlightenment. In order to do that, first I have to reach enlightenment myself. And I can only do that by actualizing the path to enlightenment, actualizing, one by one all the steps, stages of the path to enlightenment. In order to do that, I need to study the teachings on the path to enlightenment, meditate on those teachings and realize that meaning. So therefore, in order to study the teachings on the path to enlightenment, in order to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, I am attending this class at the centre this morning. So, the purpose of our being here, the purpose of this centre's existence is for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So try not to just think the words, but to feel their meaning in your heart. What has Geshela been teaching these mornings, this Sunday morning? Shantideva.
The way the Bodhisattva.
Yeah. More specifically, what chapter?
Chapter 2. We just finished chapter 6. Just started chapter 2.
Oh, so he's going in order.
Yeah. We need chapter 6.
So are you more patient now?
I don't know if I'm more patient, but I think about it more.
Do you know this book?
Is that the...
This, the author, René Fouzy, is a Swiss monk who's done a lot of retreat, and he wrote this book, a meditation on Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. So, when studying the teachings, it's good afterwards to think about them and reread what's been taught and meditate on it. This is a very good guide to meditation on the various chapters. How far into chapter 2? You using this book?
Yeah, using this one. Yeah, that's verse 22.
The Confession of Sin. We're all a bunch of sinners. Oh, it's very religious, isn't it? What?
I don't like that translation.
You prefer Stevens?
What's that?
Prefer this one?
No, the translation of the title of the chapter. Yeah, actually, I think Alex version says something like acknowledgement of previous misdeeds or something like that.
Stephen Batchelor says the disclosure of evil. Sin, evil. What does Alex say?
Somewhere.
Yeah, anyway, never mind.
Well, some words for me trigger guilt, which is a little bit non-productive, I think. And if I use different words, sometimes I avoid triggering the guilt. We want to generate regret, not guilt, right?
Yes, guilt is kind of more ego-based. I'm a bad person or something.
There's actually a footnote in this one about the translation of sin, and they use different ones. It says, although there are other possible and they include misdeed, fault, offense, transgression, vice.
What page is that?
Page 24, and the note is number 22.
Oh, the long note. I see. Papa is the Sanskrit word. In this word, we've translated the term papa as both sin and vice. Isn't Papa the name of the Pope? That's probably Latin rather than Sanskrit, though.
Should you pronounce it
Pop. Pop. In Hindi or Sanskrit?
I know Hindi, so
Yeah, Pop. Well, yes, there's a long A. There's a stroke over the A. Papa. Yeah, so that's quite a long explanation of how to translate the term. basically what it means is what I said before, creating negative actions, negative actions that leave negative imprints on the consciousness and ripen into suffering. That's it. And you know, acknowledging part of purification, which is what part of the purpose of the seven-limb prayer is that we do. Like what we just did, Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, the seven-limb prayer, or Guru Puja that we do a couple of times a month. This elaborate seven-limb practice, you know, with a lot of other stuff thrown in, of course. So since we don't want suffering, we should eliminate the cause of suffering, which is creating those actions which are called sinful or evil or like that. And you know, the main cause of the main thing that determines whether the actions of body, speech and mind are the main thing that determines whether actions of body, speech and mind are positive or negative is the motivation for doing them. As I also just mentioned just now. So if we do things for just this life, out of attachment to the comfort or happiness of this life, then those are the sort of actions that leave negative imprints on the consciousness. So, you know, and since the vast majority of actions we do are sort of automatic and unconscious, we're not really sure, why we're doing them deep in our mind. We just go about our daily life doing this and doing that. Pretty much most of them are rooted in attachment. So all day we're just creating negative karma, leaving negative imprints on our mind. So that's why it's important to do some meditation, to become familiar with what our mind is and how it works, so that we can have more awareness of what's going on in our mind from moment to moment as we go about our daily activities. Which, you know, to be honest, is pretty hard. And so to help us, that's why we do things like take precepts, you know, like 5 lay precepts: not to kill, steal, lie, engage in sexual misconduct, use intoxicants, just to make us more aware of at least the heavy negative actions that we're likely to do automatically and unconsciously. And then every now and again, if we have time, we could do long purification retreat. Anyone done 3 months Vajrasattva retreat? Buddhist lineage? Pardon?
I've done Hindi purifications with a teacher, and I've also done unbearing mass, but it's not this lineage.
So what do they entail?
Well, it's meditation, silence for 3 months. Eat in silence, to sleep, to try to be aware of your thought. And in India, you have, well, here I have in my home, Lama Zopa teaches that.
Mm-hmm.
The most important mantra to say all the time.
Yeah, the purification, the Vajrasattva mantra, the 100-syllable mantra, is specifically for purifying negative actions, which can be, you know, natural negative actions, and, you know, negative, whoever does it, killing, stealing, you know, like 10 non-virtuous actions. You familiar with them? And or natural ones, the sort of like that. Then there are negative actions that are only negative if you've taken precepts or made vows not to do them. So those actions, so there are different levels of vows. Three, basically, in Tibetan Buddhism, three basic levels of vows: the pratimoksha vows, the vows of individual liberation. So those are like the 5 lay precepts we take, or the various levels of precepts, 36, 253, 364, different precepts taken by monks and nuns. Then there are the bodhisattva precepts, 64 of those, and then there are tantric precepts, 22 of those. So if you've taken those precepts and you go against them, you break them, then that's a negative action. It's negative for you, but not for someone who hasn't taken those precepts. So those have to be purified. And then there are particular negative actions, like in relation to a spiritual guide, the guru. So those are heavy. So there are different kinds of negative actions. So to purify those, all negative actions, we do the Vajrasattva retreat, recite 100 syllable mantra 100,000 times. Well, usually it's 110,000 times. It's like a 10% extra bonus for bad recitation and stuff like that. First time I did that retreat, I've only done it twice. First time I think I'd done like 25,000 out of the 100,000, and my visualization wasn't clear, and my mind was still distracted during the sessions. So I thought I'd better start again. So then, when I got to 25,000 the second time, it still wasn't any better. So I thought, oh, screw this, I'm going to count this as 50,000. And by the time I got to 100, it still wasn't much better either. So, but of course, it does have, even one recitation of 100 syllable mantra has an effect. So, anyway, so we do 100, usually 110. For complete purification, we use we have to employ the 4 opponent powers. So when you're doing like a 3-month Vipassana retreat, you don't do all these more complicated things. It's, but, so, the 4 opponent powers. So this confession, or the second, this regret, or disclosure of evil, as Stephen Batchelor calls it, or called it, I don't know what he calls it now. Confession of sin, I don't know, what does Renee call it? Confession. So it just means recognizing and acknowledging that we've done certain negative actions that are going to cause suffering, bring suffering results to ourselves, which we don't want. So if we don't want the suffering, we've got to get rid of the cause. So getting rid of the cause partly depends on recognizing the cause that we've created. And not just in this life, but in beginning of previous lives, which basically means whatever negative actions there are to be done, we've done each of them countless times. Because we've been in cyclic existence creating negative karma since beginning of time. So to really purify these negativities, obviously it's not enough just to recognize them and acknowledge that we've done them and feel regret. And, like Bob said, not feel guilt, but what's the example they give? Like, if you accidentally ingest poison, you don't feel guilty, you feel stupid. So you immediately look for an antidote, and, calmly and sensibly you call the poison centre or go to hospital or whatever, and take the antidote, and you don't die. So there's a bit more to it with the four opponent powers. The first one is the power of, it's called the power of the object, or the power of reliance. Again, different people use different translations for the term, but basically it means taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. So we, in the prayers, we took refuge and generated bodhicitta a few times over those prayers. So taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, so that purifies negative actions created in relation to holy objects like our guru or statues or texts, stupas. By creating negative actions. So one way we create negative actions is with holy objects, disrespecting them, stepping over them. We can make all kinds of mistakes. So that's one way of creating negative karma. So taking refuge helps purify that. And we generate bodhicitta because the other way we create negative actions is with sentient beings or ourselves, who's a sentient being. So generating, killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, all these kinds of negative actions depend on other sentient beings as the object of that negative action. So generating bodhicitta purifies negative karmas created with sentient beings. So, and again, it's the power of the object. The example that's often given is if you fall onto the floor and hurt yourself on the floor, you use the same floor that hurt you to push yourself back up off the floor. So in that way, the objects with which we've created negative karma, as holy objects, sentient beings, we depend on them to purify that karma. So that's the first one, it's the power of the object. Then there's the power of regret, which we've just talked about, recognizing and feeling it was a mistake to have created those negative actions. And so, I have this poison inside me, so I have to get rid of it somehow. And then there's the power of the remedy, or the meditation that we do. So, for example, reciting the 100 syllable mantra. So it's not just a question of reciting the mantra, It's, I think you probably know the Vajrasattva practice. There's 3 different ways of, you visualize the negativities inside you in different aspects, and then visualizing the Buddha Vajrasattva above the crown of your head. Then when you recite the mantra, the purifying light and nectar enters your body, and you visualize all these negativities being purified. You visualize them being purified. So that's very powerful. And if you do it over and over again, 4 sessions a day for 3 months, then it's really, by the end, you really feel that you have accomplished something, So that's the power of the remedy, or the practice that we do to purify. And and then there's the power of the fourth power. That's the third one. And the fourth one is making a determination, making determination not to do those actions ever again, or again the rest of this life, or depending on what they are. If you don't want to promise something that you can't keep, so maybe you can say, promise I won't do it again in the next 10 seconds. Or, if you think that's a little minimalist, you can say I won't do it again for this day, or for this week, or this month, and try to be mindful of that promise you've made, and try not to do that action again, and be aware. And, if we make vows and take them seriously, which we should, it definitely heightens our consciousness of those actions. Everybody taken the 8 Mahayana precepts for the day? So this is good practice for taking precepts. If you haven't taken the 5 precepts for life, your lay precepts. Is it coming up on Sakadawa? Is Geshela giving precepts? On Tuesday? Yeah, so the 8 Mahayana precepts, we take them, they're 24, a set of vows take for 24 hours. So Geshela will be giving them, so you have to take them quite early in the morning before light, and keep them till dawn the next day. So I was at a retreat once where we took precepts, group retreat, and one of the precepts is not to eat after midday or after lunchtime, depending how you define midday. Is that me? No, that's her phone. One of the precepts is not to eat in the afternoon. I think that's for you. Lynn. Oh, is that me? Oh, it's for me. Sorry. It's called the practice of mindfulness. So about 5 o'clock that afternoon, one of the students rushed crying to Lama Yeshe. Said, "Oh, Lama," he said, "what's wrong?" He said, "Oh, I took precepts this morning and I just ate an apple." It's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And yes, I thought she was going to hell for eating this apple, breaking the precept. So, she broke the precept, but okay, so Lama said, calm down, it's like, don't focus on that. You can purify it anyway. And you purify, you recognize that you've done it. And so, she hadn't taken precepts. It was an ordinary day. She ate an apple at 5 o'clock. She wouldn't have thought about it. She wouldn't have even really noticed it. But if you've taken precepts and you do eat an apple, hopefully you wouldn't do it, but if you do, then you notice it pretty much right away, either while you're eating it or after, when you just finished or whatever. And then you can recognize that's a negative action, and you can recite a few Vajrasattva mantras and purify it. And then reaffirm your motivation not to eat again until the next day, if it's in the context of the 8 precepts. So he said, well, don't focus on the couple of minutes that you broke the precepts. Concentrate on the other 24 hours, nearly 24 hours, that you kept it, Sort of look at it more positively and rejoice rather than, like that. So taking the precepts makes you more aware of when you're doing the negative action. And also, as Lama Yeshe used to say, negative actions don't suddenly arise, you know. He said if you're aware, there's a sort of vibration, and you have to be quite sensitive. And again, this is why it's important to meditate and become familiar with the mind, but there's a sort of a warning vibration that you're about to do this action. You know, and he says, like in the sunrise, before you actually see the sun, there's some light precedes the arising of the sun. So it's like there's some kind of vibration that precedes the arising of a negative action. I mean, it all happens very quickly, so I think it's hard to be that aware, but nevertheless, precepts make you more aware of when you're about to do the negative action, and you can stop yourself in time. So this is all, you know, part of the grand plan to completely purify the mind and reach enlightenment. So anyway, the fourth one is making a vow not to do the action again for your life, or for whatever period of time you think is reasonable for each of the different vows that you're taking, each or the different actions that you're thinking about. So when Lama Yeshe was giving his teachings on the Vajrasattva, for this fourth one, this making the determination not to do it again, he asked us to come up with a word for what it was. So people were thinking, well, making a vow or making a promise, or what other words do they say? Yeah, resolving not to do it again. Anyway, we came up with all these words, and none of them satisfied him. So I think in the end we never really came up with the right word. But he said it's not like a vow. It's not just like a vow or a promise or resolve or like that. It's a realization, something deeper than that. It's a realization that this is a mistake, and as he put it, I'm just a realization I'm never going to go there again. You know? And it's like if you put your hand on the burner on the stove, you're only ever really going to do that once. You know, I mean, obviously you're not going to do it on purpose either, I don't think. But accidentally you put your hand like, you know it really hurts, because it's a pretty clear lesson. Oh, red hot iron, skin on the hand, bad combination. So you learn that very quickly, because the result follows the cause pretty much instantaneously. So karma is very different from that. Karma can ripen, you know, 1 billion years from now. Or karma that are ripening now could have been created 1 billion years ago. So it's hard to put the cause and the result together that way. But if you study karma, if you're aware of karma, if you understand the vows and the purpose of the vows, and the breaking the vow, the result of breaking the vow is as clear to your mind as putting your hand on the red hot stove is. It's just a deep realization you're never going to do that action again, because the result is so painful, so harmful. So I don't know what a word for that is, but so we come up with these slightly weaker alternatives. So, so those are the 4 powers. So a proper purification practice will employ all 4. And when you do the retreat, and a typical retreat will be done 4 sessions a day, every day for 3 months, or until you've completed the recitation. 110,000 mantras usually takes, you don't want to rush it. You want to do proper meditation in each of your sessions. You just don't sort of burn through the sadhana and then recite a few mantras and then forget about it during the breaks. Also, in a retreat, the break times are just as important as the session times, because you don't want to be, sweeping the floor and you sweep all the dirt to one side, and then instead of getting rid of it, then you just sweep it across to the other side. The room never gets clean, just moving the dirt around. So, whatever we purify in the session should be maintained in the breaks. And, the sessions are usually 2.5 hours, so there's actually more break time than session time. So in that way you could say the break times are more important than the sessions. Anyway, this is just like an advertisement to do the 3-month purification retreat, because it really makes a difference, Honestly, I can say that retreat, the first time it was 1974, and I can still feel it. Yeah. Well, you can do it individually, like at Milarepa Centre, our retreat centre. Milarepa Centre, they used to do it over the winter in the old days, in the 80s or 90s. I haven't done it there for a while, I think. But there's new management there. Maybe they could reinstate the winter 3-month retreat. Usually there are only 2 or 3 people doing it.
Mary and Harry used to do retreats.
Yeah.
That's why I'm coming here, because I went there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever did a 3-month Vajrasattva retreat while they were there. They were only there for a year anyway. But I know in the organisation they used to do a 3-month retreat every summer at Tushita Tushita Meditation Centre in Dharamsala. The last time I did it, which is a few years ago now, it was with Lama Yeshe in California, Land of Medicine Buddha. There was a 3-month Vajrasattva retreat.
Did you ever do it in Australia?
I know lots of people have done individual 3-month retreats, and there are a number of places in Australia. Are you going to Australia?
Well, I'm retiring in 2 years, so I can go where I want to go.
Oh,
And I looked at
yeah. There's a very nice retreat centre on Kangaroo Island. Kangaroo Island, it's got to be in Australia, right? Like Kangaroo Island in the Bahamas. Doesn't work. Anyway, so you look 2 years ahead, there's plenty of time to figure it out. But yeah, I don't know of one coming up. But I mean, are you in touch with the FPMT information or?
Yeah, and I can email Harry and Mary when I want it.
Yeah, so they'll know.
Huh?
Yeah, they'll know. Maybe they'll set something up for you in Crestone. Lama Yeshe used to say that for beginners like us, maybe sometimes it's better to do a group retreat, because you benefit from the energy of the group. And also, as a member of, retreats are best done if they're strict, so you don't skip sessions, stuff like that. And if, one of the things was that the session doesn't start until everybody's there. So if you're late or if you decide to skip, you're ruining it for everybody else. So there's that kind of obligation to force you to go. You think, oh, I've got a headache, maybe I'll. If you're by yourself, you kind of easier to stay in bed, But if you know everyone's waiting for you or depending on you, then you kind of have to go, and it kind of forces you to be a little more disciplined. And a lot of the excuses we make are pretty bogus, so well, it can be, in my case. But that time I did an individual retreat, and it was just like, I think, best time of my life, to be honest. So the four opponent powers are the way to purify negative karma, and there are different. Well, usually Vajrasattva is the mantra. Also, there's another retreat you can do, Prostration Retreat, 100,000 prostrations, with the confession to the 35 Buddhas. So each of the 35 Buddhas. Each of the 35 Buddhas made a vow when they were on the path, when they were bodhisattvas on the path. When I become Buddha, I'm going to benefit all sentient beings, but particularly I'm going to help purify this sort of thing or that sort of thing, or like that. So when they became enlightened, they have the power of the promise made as a bodhisattva. So they have particular power to purify certain actions for certain periods of time. So that way, so that's also a very powerful practice because it involves prostrations, which is helps purify negative actions created with the body. Because so when you're doing purification with 35 Buddhas, you're doing physical action of purifying by doing prostrations, and then you're doing, by reciting the names of the Buddhas, you're doing verbal purification, and by doing the visualization, you're purifying your mind. So it covers all those three doors. Three doors, as they're called, the doors through which we create positive or negative actions. Body, speech and mind. So as I said before, to reach enlightenment, we have to study the teachings and then meditate on them to actualize or realize their meaning. So realization can only happen in a mind that has been purified. In the same way that you can only grow things in a garden that's been, weeded, and all the broken glass and all the junk and everything's been removed, and the earth has been made very receptive. So our mind is full of garbage, so we have to get rid of that. So as Lama Tsongkhapa, who was in communication with Manjushri, Buddha of Wisdom. Is he up there? Manjushri he's on the left. He's with the sword. I can't see. Up there. So Lama Tsongkhapa had visions of Manjushri when he was like 10 years old and could communicate with him directly. So Manjushri is the Buddha's manifestation of the wisdom of all the Buddhas. And, you know, the sword is the sword that cuts the ego and all the delusions that arise from the ego, you know, the wrong conception of the self. And then in his, is he like that? Holding, there's a lotus with a Prajnaparamita text. So I think Lama Tsongkhapa has the same implements, just slightly different. Lama Tsongkhapa has the text on one side and the sword on the other, isn't it? Anyway, should be. So, so he said to Manjushri, what's the best way to get realizations? And Manjushri said there are three things that should be done together. So, and an integrated practice is the best, where, you know, you purify, you create merit, and you study and develop understanding of the meaning of the teachings together. So the three things that he said should be done together are he said meditating on the path is the seed. So, you know, if we have a seed of a plant that we want to grow, the seed is the most important thing. Without the seed, it doesn't matter what you do, nothing's going to grow. But you can't just put the seed anywhere. The seed has to be put into proper ground. So, so the proper ground is where it's dug up and the weeds are pulled out and all the junk and the rocks and everything are gotten rid of, and then it's watered and fertilized and it has sunshine and all that stuff, then things will grow. So our mind is like that. It's like a field. So the seed is the actual teachings, the teachings on each of the stages, each of the steps of the path. And you familiar with, you know, everybody knows the outline, the Lamrim outline? Have you been here before?
So various teachings, but I mean,
Okay, good. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of jealous, you know. Remember when I was new, it was all kind of exciting and it was just amazing, all these new ideas and new concepts and this whole, all of a sudden there's like, oh yeah, so life really does have a purpose or a meaning, or there is actually, there's not just like this random thing happening in a cold universe, you know. But now after all this time I'm sort of old and bitter and cynical, so it would be nice to be young and fresh again. Approach things with enthusiasm, you know. Anyway, so there's, from here to there, from here to eternity, there are a lot of steps. And so each one has to be understood and practiced and realized. So studying the actual teaching and thinking about it and coming to accept, coming to the conclusion that it's correct, that's kind of the seed. That's the main thing. But that has to be accompanied by two other things. Three other things really, but they're called two. One has part A and part B. So the second is purification and creation of merit. So, you know, like with the field, you have to purify the ground and you have to enrich it with stuff, you know. So same with the mind, we have to purify by doing these purification practices with the four opponent powers. And we have to enrich it by doing certain other actions, like prostrations also by creating merit, so positive karma. So prostrating, you know, mandala offerings, you know, there are different practices that create merit. making a holy object, circumambulating the stupa, reading texts, studying texts, reciting texts on emptiness, the perfection of wisdom sutras So a lot of these things we do at the beginning of each session. That's why we do these prayers and things at the beginning, to get our mind ready for the teachings. Not this kind of stupidity that I'm spouting, but when Geshela's here or when there's a proper teacher like that. So we do the seven limb practice, which is the essence of purification and creation of merit. Those seven limbs that we do. Usually the order is prostration, offering, confession, rejoicing. Rejoicing, very powerful way to create merit. Rejoicing, usually in a retreat with Lama Zopa, after you recite the verse on rejoicing, where we remember Lama Tsongkhapa's great deeds, etc. Rinpoche has us stop and actually rejoice in our own merit and the merit of others, the merit of the Buddhas, the merit of our teachers, to bring it to mind and really think how amazing, how wonderful. Because merit is the cause of all happiness and success. So if we just breeze through it, okay, it's good as far as it goes, but it doesn't go very far. If you actually stop and meditate on it for a minute or two, it becomes much more powerful, and we create much more merit by doing that. Rejoicing. It's kind of the simplest of actions, but very powerful way of creating merit. So then we, request the teachers to live long, healthy lives, and then to turn the wheel of Dharma to give teachings, and then we dedicate the merit created by the previous 6 limbs. So when we do the Lama Tsongkhapa practice, the Guru Yoga, because it's a Guru Yoga practice, we start by requesting him to live for a long time, so it's a little bit out of the usual order of the 7 limbs. But anyway, they're all there. And then we do the visualization of the Guru coming to the crown of our head and coming to our heart. So Lama Tsongkhapa, so Manjushri said to Lama Tsongkhapa, to attain realizations, the 3 things should be done together. Meditating on the path is the principal cause, but the secondary causes are rejoicing, creating merit. So there are 2 parts to that one thing. And often, the things that we do, like prostrations and so on, they both purify and they create merit, depending how well we do them. And then the third thing is praying to the Guru as one with the deity. So basically it's just praying to a Guru for help and inspiration to accomplish the practice. So when we do the Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, then we do those 3 verses. It comes to the crown of our head and then comes to our heart. That's kind of covering that aspect of it. Praying to the Guru's oneness with the deity is quite a profound topic that someone who knows all about it could talk about that for a long time, but seeing I don't know much about it, I can't say that much more. But in the Guru, when you do the Guru Puja practice, there's that section where we pray to the lineage, the Gurus of the lineage and so on, Because without devotion, devotion is it's like when you water the seeds that you've planted. devotion waters the meditation on the topic. It's so we purify, we create merit, and we nurture all those activities with devotion to the Guru. So it means, and I always say that this most important thing in life is to find the right teacher. To find not just a teacher, but the right teacher, and it's very hard. I mean, you have to be very lucky. You look around the world, 6-7 billion people, not too many have a guru, and quite a lot have the wrong guru. People who aren't qualified, but people are karmically attracted to this person, and the person leads them in the wrong direction. So you have to be very careful who you tie your mind to, spiritually speaking. It's better not to have a guru than the wrong one. So, we've been very fortunate. We have His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we had Lama Yeshe, Lama Rinpoche, and we had Geshe Tsorga here, we've got Geshe Tenli. I mean, they're all definitely not the wrong, definitely not wrong teachers. But, like every few months or every year or two, it seems like there's a new scandal, even in the Tibetan Buddhist world or in the Buddhist world, of teachers behaving badly, so-called teachers behaving badly. Stuff comes out sometimes after decades of bad behaviour. It's amazing, really. But we just saw it yesterday. Old Harvey in handcuffs, It's everywhere. So, this is ignorance, attachment, delusion. This is the world we live in. This is cyclic existence, and things are going wrong all the time. And if you don't like it, get out. And the way to get out is to study and practice the path. It's the only way out. Yeah.
You mentioned you've been to at least 2 3-month retreats.
Yeah, Vajrasattva retreat, yeah.
How does one go to these retreats and immerse themselves in spirituality and then come back out into the real world and function in your day-to-day, what you have to do for work and what have you?
Believe me, it is seamless, unfortunately. I mean, one day you're in retreat, the next day you're back at work, and it's like, did that really happen? But you're affected at a very deep level. You can still function. I mean, it's like, if you can't, then somehow you miss the point, But what's important, I think, is to be in retreat every day of your life, in the sense that you maintain some of the awareness and the practice. At least you do some meditation in the morning to set your motivation for the day, and at night before you go to bed you do some purification to purify any negative karma created advertently or inadvertently during the day. And so, and then to try and maintain some awareness. So I think there are other books around. There are books around where, they have something to think about, like each day, like 365. So I run something called the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. So we publish those free books in there. So we're coming out soon with a book called Lam Rim Year that contains 365 teachings by Lama Yeshe or Lama Zopa Rinpoche. It goes through the entire Lam Rim from A to Z, from beginning to end, and it follows the outline of the path to enlightenment. So each day has something you can think about, and so you try and maintain awareness of that throughout the day. So that's kind of
Is that published?
no. Just got the manuscript a few days ago from the editors. So it'll be a few more months. But you can do your own. I mean, there's the big book, Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. You can pick out a sentence or two or a point or two from that, or there's a very detailed outline at the back with more than 365 points, I think. And so you can just pick one of those to think about each day. You can make your own, really. It'll ruin our sales, but you know. No, actually, I think the book's going to be free. We say when we talk about meditation, you say there are two kinds of meditation. Generally, they say the two kinds of meditation. They are. Go to Bob. He knows everything.
Concentration and analytical.
Yeah. So again, and that ties in with the three kinds of wisdom that we're trying to develop. 3 levels of wisdom, and they are
The wisdom of hearing, the wisdom of contemplation, and the wisdom of meditation.
Yeah. So the wisdom of hearing is, you don't know anything about Buddhism. You go to a lecture, and you hear some concepts that you never heard before, that you're totally unfamiliar with. You hear about past and future lives. You hear about karma. You hear about the Four Noble Truths. You hear about refuge. You hear about liberation. You hear about enlightenment. At a certain point you didn't know anything, never even heard the words, and then you hear the words and a little explanation about what they mean. That's the wisdom of hearing. You've heard something, you've learned something for the first time. So to that extent, that little extent, you've eradicated ignorance of whatever topic that is or whatever topics they are, right? So that's a little level of wisdom. That's the seed, So then you hear some of these things, and if you're like me, you reject them out of hand. Because, my mother never told me that. I never learnt that at school. I never learned that at university. How could that be right? You don't read about it in the paper. It's not on TV, So, that must be wrong. It's an Eastern thing, or, superstition. But you think, well, or maybe not. So, if you're really ignorant, you just never look at it again. If you have a little bit of wisdom, then you'll start to think, well, you'll think about it. So you'll contemplate the topic. So that's where the analytical meditation comes in. You analyze the teachings that you've heard. So the point of analysis is to come to a conclusion. It's right or it's wrong. But you have to come to a conclusion. If you don't come to a conclusion about things, then your life is just kind of wishy-washy, and you never really accomplish much, You kind of bumble through and then you die. And then if you're lucky, you get a chance to do it again at some point. So you have to come to a conclusion. So, past and future lives, yes or no? Buddha is enlightened, yes or no? Buddha is an object of refuge. The Dharma teachings are correct, or is yes or no conclusion. If you come to a conclusion, yes, it makes sense. There must be past and future lives. There's not just one life. Come to a conclusion that's contrary to the way you've always thought and acted, then that conclusion, that intellectual understanding, isn't enough to change your behaviour, generally. So then you meditate on, you come to a conclusion, so that's the analytical meditation, and then you meditate single-pointedly on that conclusion to really make that correct understanding a part, to integrate that correct understanding into your mind so that it displaces the ignorance of that topic in your mind. So then it becomes a part of your mind, a part of your being, and then you act from that correct understanding instead of from the wrong understanding. So I think the big wrong understanding is that there's only one life. Because, even now after 45 years or something, I go about my life as if this is the only life there is, So it really takes hard work and effort to maintain awareness that this life is short, it's going to end, and there's endless lives after this one. And that period of time, that infinity, is more important than the fraction of the flash of lightning of this life, So we have to come to the conclusion that yes, there are future lives, many of them, countless of them, and that to do things that benefit, the endless future is more important than doing things just for the now. So come to the conclusion and then meditate on it to really make that a part, that wisdom, to displace the ignorance by that wisdom. So that applies to all the steps of the path, really. So two kinds of meditation. There's analytical meditation, where we meditate on the topic, and then the wisdom of meditation, where you focus on that and you realize that it becomes real for you. It becomes a real part of you, a realization. Realization is much deeper than just intellectual understanding. Intellectual understanding is okay, but it's very weak. So that's generally, when we say two kinds of meditation, analytical and concentrated meditation. So what we did before, tried to do before, meditating on the breath, that's practicing concentrated meditation, trying to focus our mind and keep it on an object. Because that concentration is obviously also very important in contemplation or analytical meditation. If you can't concentrate on the logical thread that you're trying to follow, then you won't get to a conclusion. And then when you do get to the conclusion, if you have weak concentration, you can't keep your mind focused on that either. So it won't take root. So it's difficult to develop concentration on a day-to-day basis. That's why it's good to do. What's your name? So it's good to do what Joan did, 3-month Vipassana retreat or insight retreat at IMS in Barrie. Yeah. Yeah. So that's you can learn how to do that. They're there doing that concentrated Vipassana meditation, single-pointed concentration.
And I studied with a Hindu teacher where I went to India with him for chakra psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to get up at dawn to meditate because he felt that the ether is pure to meditate during.
Oh yeah, I think that's typical. Even before dawn. Yeah. When we do retreat, like I said, there's 4 sessions a day. The first session should be before dawn. And then there's breakfast, and then there's another session before lunch, and another one in the afternoon, and then probably better not to eat in the evening, because then the last session is much clearer if you eat. And then, yeah, so, or if you do eat in the evening, it should be very light, you know. Usually in a long retreat, it's good to take 8 precepts every day and just eat once. So it saves time, and your body feels lighter and your mind gets more clear the less food you have in you, you know. So anyway, the point I'm going gradually working up to is, as there are 2 kinds of so that's the 2 kinds of meditation. There's another 2 kinds of meditation, and that's formal and informal. So formal meditation is what we do when we sit on our cushion and actually meditate, like with our eyes closed or slightly open, and you know, we're either doing analytical or concentrated meditation. The informal meditation is the rest of the day, when you're at work, when you're at home, whatever you're doing, being aware of what's going on in your mind, knowing what's going on in your mind, being aware of your motivation, in particular, why am I doing this, you know, and what are the consequences of doing this action? Is this in line with my ethical framework or not? You know, am I keeping my precepts? Am I not? You know, so just being aware. So in the same way, you know, there are 2 kinds of retreat. So there's a retreat that you go away for a week or a month or 3 months or 3 years, people do, you know. And that's where you really get the work done, in that formal retreat. But when you come out, the rest of your mind is also, the rest of your life is also kind of retreat, in that you're trying to keep away from negative actions, trying to keep your mind focused on the prize, you know, enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, you know. Being aware of your actions, of trying to be kind and compassionate and understanding, and avoiding anger and strong attachment, you know, all these things. So in those early meditation courses in Nepal back in the 70s, you know, it's like you know, with all these freaks and weirdos and hippies and totally undisciplined people there, you know, and then as soon as the retreat, everyone rushes down to Kathmandu and gets stoned and eats pie and all things they missed out at Kopan, and then so have this total opposite pendulum swing, and then gradually, hopefully, sort of a little bit come back to so from one extreme to the other, and gradually come back to the middle and lead a balanced life along the middle way, avoiding, too extreme asceticism, extreme overindulgence, just lead a balanced life, but on a firm, sound ethical basis, I don't know. I mean, it's a long time since I did those courses, but maybe they're still going on. I think they just did the 50th. So maybe they still run down to Kathmandu. I mean, I've got no idea now. I haven't been to Nepal for a long time either. Time flies when you're having fun. So that's it. Thank you very much. I don't know what I've been rambling on about, but that's the end of it. So just do a quick one. So, as I said, a perfect action has 3 parts. I didn't say, but it does. There's motivation. There's correct motivation, correct action, and then correct dedication. So we've generated a lot of positive energy we call merit, the cause of all happiness and success. So to prevent from that merit is very fragile, can be destroyed by anger or, wrong views. So to keep it intact, to put that money in the bank, in a safe bank, we do the practice of dedication, so we dedicate thinking, because of this merit, may I quickly reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So we put it in that channel. So when you put a drop of water in the ocean, that drop of water is part of the ocean forever. So, like that. So we use these prayers as a reminder.
Prayer dedication 57. Through this virtue may I freely, having gained Kurukulla's state, place ease and every sentient being, without exception, in that state. Precious Supreme Holy Mind, may it whereunborn arise, and wherefore never decline, but increase forevermore. Page 75, and we can say off.
Okay. Also, Geshela's teaching